On this episode of Belly Balance, we are honored to welcome a retired wing commander, Anjali Rathi. She has not only served the nation with pride but also inspired many beyond the uniform. She is the Miss Hindu 2008, Woman Icon Awardee 2013, and Mrs. India Watch Star 2024.
Is that why is the US generally considered the most powerful force when it comes to Air Force and Army in general?
I think we hear this a lot, why when we talk of US, why is it the giant player in the game? So, see, I think you need to understand the basics. When we talk of global reach, that plays a very important role. The kind of network and alliances that they hold worldwide, that of course is one of the, key roles why it keeps that kind of, presence. And of course, when we talk of, we cannot talk of US and not talk of the advanced technology that they have, whether it's in the space domain or the cutting edge aircrafts like F-35s. I mean, their technology in terms of the weapon system is of course very very advanced. Then needless to say, these things don't come easy. The kind of superior funding that they have billions of dollars, that they're spending every year on their research and their development. That of course, is one of the major aspects which helps them. And then what comes most importantly is when we talk about the AI integration. So AI integration of these things, of course, helps them in a lot better decision making. And what we talk about, the real time warfare capabilities that we talk of at present. And I think I've already spoken of their advancement in the space domain. That, of course, I personally feel is, they've gone really ahead there. Their recce, their communication system, that's quite advanced. And yes, they are investing a lot even in the future, innovations when we talk about the hypersonic weapon systems or the next gen aircraft that we talk about. So yes, their mindset is bent towards investing and continuously investing in the technology, and I think that gives them a sort of a upper hand in the warfare if we talk about in present scenario.
Do you think India is lacking that mindset where we also need to invest in our defense system more?
So no, I think to start with, maybe India was, but if you talk of the present scenario, I think we have ample examples to see that presently. I think since the past decade plus or so, finally the mindset has shifted. We are pretty much realizing the need of the hour, that the dynamic condition that the world, I would say, the world is on today. You cannot sit back and just be hoping for peace. You need to start investing in your defense, in your, and of course our DRDO is phenomenally, taking a fast track of late. And present scenario, I would say no. India of late has been investing pretty much. They have realized the need of the hour, and now I don't think we are anywhere, lagging behind. We are aggressively catching up, and pretty soon I see us there, right there.
Like how can someone get into the Air Force? The systematic process and what is the kind of training you guys have to undertake, the mental and the physical training, because someone if they have to enter the armed force they have to be better prepared. So walk us through the process.
So, see, I think I'll talk generic if you're talking about getting into the defense forces as such. So, there are a lot of modes, and of course, I think what we should start with is the NDA now. We've just had the first batch pass out, which is something we're also proud of. So, now it's not even that like in my time, we had to wait to do the graduation and then get through. But now I think even straight after 12th in your NDA, your age, I think 16 and a half to 19, 19 and a half, you can directly get through the NDA also. Of course, if you are an aspirant for the flying branch, then you need to mandatorily be having maths and physics in your 12th standard. Then there are a lot of other modes, like you have the CDSC that's conducted by the UPSC. For Air Force specifically, you have the AFCAT. You also have the NCC special entry scheme. For that, if you are a C certificate, you don't have to give the written, you directly have the your SSB. So there are a lot of different platforms through which, whether you're a graduate or you're an undergraduate or you're a postgraduate, so you have different modes of entering. And of course, I keep telling everyone, there are official websites. Keep looking out for the advertisements like www.upsc.gov.in. That's where you can check the advertisements that keep coming out. If you're specifically looking for how you want to go through your eligibility criteria, your subject criteria, careerairforce.gov.in should be very helpful. And I think everybody must visit these websites to keep taking the update, because these websites keep updating time and again, when the next selection process will be there, when you can apply next. And I think after you've made it in the first step, the next comes the most important part, which is the SSB. So SSB is, of course, all across India, pan India, various locations. It's there. It's a very rigorous process for a good amount of time, for 5 days, where different kind of tests are taken, your psychology, your aptitude, your team spirit. And once you've cleared all of your SSB, you are conference in. Thereafter, your complete medical evaluation takes place. Now the standards for those are also very high. That is the reason I expect that anybody who's a defense aspirant must go through these sites and must go through all the criteria. And yes, once your medicals are also clear, then you finally, uh, hope like hell and pray that your name comes in the merit list. And once you're there, then your joining letter comes, which is a very happy moment for all of us. And then starts your training for the, military. And whether it's NDA training, or for like in our case, it was in Air Force Academy, that's in Dundigal, Hyderabad. It's again, that also varies. Like for the flying branch, for us it was 1.5 year, while for the ground duties it's close to a year. So then it depends what stream you're getting into. As per that, your training happens, which is in terms of both your physical training, your academic training, your all-rounder grooming. So then I think that the academy takes care to make sure you are groomed, you're trained, and you come out as an officer ready to serve.
What kind of physical training do you undertake? Like, I've heard about the para SF, and they are the special forces, so उनका तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा होता है. What kind of physical training is there in the Air Force?
So I think when you talk of physical, it's your core building. Basically, first is you work on your stamina. You work in terms of your physical fitness. So if I just say obstacle training and all, those are very I'll say very minor part of it. It's a holistic, all rounder physical building, stamina, or core building that you go through. Your day starts early in the morning, where you have your regular PTs, your drillers, to instill that discipline in you. Of course, from doing cross country running to all kind of exercises, uh, every aspect of your physical training, which you feel initially looks difficult, slowly and steady by the end of the, I think, training, everybody gets through it. And yeah, I think it's a holistic development, because of course when you're serving your country, you're wearing the uniform, there's no option, you have to be physically fit. You need to be ready to endure anything, because that's the core aim. You need to be physically fit in all aspects.
So, what does a typical day for a wing commander looks like in the army?
I think to start with, there's no typical day. When you talk about the armed forces, every day is very dynamic, it's very different. But if I pick up any routine day of flying, where there is no specific mission as such, I think it starts really early in the morning, as early as maybe 4 a.m. You start with your briefings, and now briefings are also of different kinds. You have your Met briefing. Met is basically, they give you a picture of, what the weather is going to be like in the specific area where we're going for flying. Then there are ATC briefings. Then, of course, you have an internal, amongst your team, you have a whole flying, the sortie that you'll be flying. You have a mission brief for that. Thereafter, there's a lot of training. You undergo also, there are a lot of administrative aspects also that you need to take care before you actually get airborne. So once all of that is sorted, you get airborne. And then, of course, to give you a realistic picture, it's not that you get airborne for place A, you always go land there and come back. There are a lot of permutations and combinations. Mid-air, you could be told to probably undertake another commitment which has suddenly come up. So you need to have that mental ability and aptitude to suddenly, change your course, do those calculations mid-air, and get onto a different mission. So it's 24/7, when you're in this kind of aviation, when we talk about, you have to be on your toes, you have to be attentive 24/7. So there's no typical day. But of course, in general, yes, if I've done my mission, I come back, we have a debrief, we discuss what went wrong, what did not go as planned, and how probably we need to work on it. And then in the evenings, typically we have these runs, like we call the cross country health runs, because I think physical fitness across the armed forces is something that will continue staying with you. So we go for these runs, and Yeah, that's what a routine day looks like.
It sounds quite hectic. Like for a civilian, listening to all of this is like, oh my god, will we even be able to do this? Waking up at 4 and it just sounds so tiring.
See, I think, it's sounding difficult, but trust me, when, you get that feeling that I want to serve my country, and the day you wear that uniform, I think the whole perspective in life shifts. The perspective of, being in your comfort zone, that totally breaks, the day you even take a decision to, be a part of the armed forces and wear the uniform, because then it's no more about how comfortable I'm feeling, if I'm feeling tired, if I'm okay doing it, then it's like giving it all that you have, maybe 200% and more. But being fit and being able to deliver when the time comes, and with that kind of motivation, I think you will not even realize you'll get through the training process. It's just mentally training yourself, that's more important here.
All right. So moving ahead, now that you might have heard about the Operation Sindoor, right? Everything is going on. So what are your views upon it? Like after the Pahalgam attacks, India retaliated with Operation Sindoor. What do you think about it? And do you think it was a good move by India?
I think absolutely India just sent out a very loud and clear message that India is no more going to stay silent. Like I said, the shift in the strategic mindset that suddenly the India has taken up to. I think Operation Sindoor it wasn't just a retaliation. It was pretty much I would say a restoration of our national pride. It's a strategic shift that I say in our defense posture. It shows how proactive our deterrence policy is now. And like I heard a lot of debating, but like I said, there's nobody who's dying to get into a war and risk their life. But war is inevitable to even restore or maintain the peace. I think this was just a clear example of that even to keep the peace and safety of your nation, primarily alive, you need to at times resort to offense. And the offense was primarily in a defensive way that was done. To maintain defense, also, you have to go offensive a lot of times. So, yeah, I think the message was that we won't stay silent if any such incident takes place, even in the future.
Do you think it should be mandatory to for Indians to serve in the armed forces, just like in China and I guess Russia has this kind of what do you call it, mandatory thing that you have to serve in the armed forces?
I think you'll get a lot of mixed reactions on that. But for me personally, because I have a lot of values that were imbibed in me, which even now, when I have retired, I've switched my career, stay with me, the qualities of your hard work, your integrity. That no matter what work you're doing, that integrity, hard work, sincerity stays with you. So I would feel yes. I mean, for what duration, that's debatable, but even a basic 6 month to a year, training would instill a lot of discipline, a lot of national pride, which a lot of people I today see, yes, they struggle with that. And it's not just about warfare, that when there's war, will they be there to, assist? No, it's also a lot about your character building. If you're subject to even some amount of this kind of training, which we categorically undergo, I think you will come out so much stronger, united, you will be so much more grounded, and I think you will be prepared as a human being to face any challenge with utmost determination and courage. तो हाँ, मुझे डेफ़िनेटली लगता है कि हर सिटिज़न को कम से कम कुछ 6 महीने, 1 साल that's left to the leadership to decide, some amount of military training definitely should be given to them. It'll work better for them only.
But do you think India has that kind of infrastructure where it can provide training to a lot of people?
It can, of course, not all together at one go. That I'll be very honest about, because you know what our population is like. But yes, in phases, in segments, why not introduce probably small little boot camps, college may, and of course, not everybody will be willing also. So at least on voluntary grounds, start those. And I'm sure, because this time during the operations, the kind of response that we saw from our youth, it was so heartwarming. I think you will have a phenomenal amount of turnout in phases, in different places. Of course, with the little more careful, detailed planning, it can be executed. Not, again, I'm reiterating, not all together, but in phases and at locations, different locations, in a timely manner. Yes, it can be achieved.
All right. So nextly, we have a few questions So it's like kind of like a quick fire. We'll speak the statement and then you have to answer it within a few seconds.
A few seconds.
Yeah.
That sounds tricky.
Okay.
I'll try. Okay. Yeah.
Alright, the first one is one thing from military training that should be compulsory in schools.
I think the physical fitness part, the obstacle training, and the complete morning routine that we have, it'll build a lot of toughness and teamwork. So yeah, the morning physical fitness routine should be included.
One stereotype about women in uniforms.
Too soft to combat. That's way, I think, way long back. We've already shattered that myth.
Underrated quality of a leader.
Of a leader. So I think
Yes.
this is generic all across. I think listening, I
Okay.
feel, is one of the most underrated. You listen, you assimilate more, and you give better judgment. So listening.
A song you would play before taking off.
It has to be Celine Dion, I'm Alive. Because right from our training stages, I remember that was like one of the Top Gun anthem, of course, goes without saying. But Celine Dion, I'm Alive was a song we would pretty much relate to, before going for our sorties, before going for solo. So yeah, I'm alive.
One tradition in the Air Force you wish every organization adopted.
I think if I have to give one word, TOT. That's in my military terminology, it's time on target. But in civil world, if we have to incorporate it, that's basically the criticality of time. You can't have endless deadlines for any work that's assigned. If you start sticking to this concept of make it TOT, okay, at 1701 hours we expect this, so people would know the relevance and stick to that timing. So yeah, we need to have more of time discipline.
One movie that depicts the military life right. One Bollywood movie.
Bollywood movie, I think I would say the latest one which I've seen, Fighter. Of course, they have their little added drama because you have to make the movie work also. But yeah, a lot of, I would say, situations in that movie is very aptly, shown that even if you are sleeping at night, you're out with friends, family, 1 second, alarm goes out, one call comes that, there's an intrusion or there's something, you would leave the world behind to, immediately go there and be ready to react. So yeah, a lot of situations depicted in the movie Fighter show the life of an aviator very aptly, I would say.
I haven't seen the movie. I'll go watch it after my exams.
Please do, you will love it.
Okay. What's this is the last question. So what advice would you like to give to all the Gen Zs listening to this episode?
Firstly, I think the Gen Zs, the potential and the opportunities and the aptitude that they have is something I feel so happy about. You should be incredibly proud of it. But then, yes, utilizing that aptitude and the kind of potential that you have is what is important. So I would just advise that own your story, be it the uniform or the boardroom or a ramp, any stage in life, whatever your battlefield is, that you choose to take on, walk with your head high, because you're not just breaking barriers, you're also creating a legacy behind. So realize your true potential, work towards it, walk with your head high, and yeah, you're very much going to be doing wonders in life.
So yes, guys, this was it for today's episode. Hope you liked it. And if you have any more questions, you can ask them in the comment section and we will love to take them up the second time. So yes, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.